All right, let's dive into a pretty wild idea today. What if a country's culture wasn't just shaped by its history or its politics, but by the actual skeletons of its people? It's a fascinating theory that connects our very bones to our behavior in ways you would never expect.
So here's the big question we're exploring. We're setting aside the usual stuff, sociology, history, and instead we're looking at a physical, almost biological reason for some of the most distinct parts of Japanese culture. And this all comes from one man who claims he didn't just study it, he lived it, from the inside out.
So the guy who came up with all of this is Hiroyuki Yamauchi. And what makes his perspective so unique is his personal journey. Get this, he says he spent 15 years in this intense, grueling personal experiment to literally transform his body from what he calls the Japanese type into a hunter-gatherer type. This meant he could actually compare both physical states, not as an outsider looking in, but from his own lived experience.
And right here, this is the absolute core of his entire theory. It's a pretty startling idea. He's saying that the natural, default skeletal balance for a typical Japanese person is inherently fragile. It's a state that other body types, what he calls the hunter-gatherer type, only get to when they're very old, when their core muscles have weakened. He's basically arguing that, from the very start, their physical foundation is one of instability.
Okay, so what does this physical state actually look like? This isn't just some abstract concept. Yamauchi breaks it down into two totally different skeletal structures, and he argues these structures dictate everything: how we move, how we interact, and eventually, how we build an entire society.
Let's look at the mechanics here. He describes the Japanese type as having a dropped pelvis, with weight on the heels. This makes pulling motions, drawing things inward, feel really stable and natural. It's a fundamentally defensive posture. Now contrast that with the hunter-gatherer type. Here, the pelvis is erect, and the weight is on the balls of the feet. That's a structure built for moving forward, for pushing energy out. Think about it. We're designed to move forward, right? But he's arguing this skeletal type is balanced for pulling back, as if it's in a constant state of defense.
So how does a static posture like that actually translate into real-world action? Well, according to this theory, if your very sense of balance is different, your ability to interact with the world around you, even in simple creative moments, is going to be fundamentally different too. And this is captured perfectly in one of Yamauchi's own stories. He said that after he transformed his body into that hunter-gatherer type, he could draw these smooth, flowing curves effortlessly. It just felt natural. But to draw a perfectly straight line, he had to consciously shift his balance back, putting his weight on his heels and reverting to the posture of the Japanese type. Just let that sink in for a second. A simple change in skeletal balance could completely alter your innate creative ability.
This difference even extends to something as basic as touch. Yamauchi talks about two completely different ways of touching. On the left, you have point contact, which he links to the Japanese type. It's that tense, kind of awkward touch, where the focus is on the fingertips because the body's natural tendency is to pull back. Then on the right, you have surface contact, which he links to the hunter-gatherer type. This is a soft, full, enveloping touch that uses the whole palm. You know that feeling when you shake someone's hand and it just feels so full and reassuring? That's surface contact. He claims it felt totally natural in his hunter-gatherer body, but the moment he shifted back, he couldn't help but tense up into point contact.
So, this physical reality creates a massive social puzzle. If something as simple as a firm handshake or a reassuring pat on the back feels physically awkward or even unstable for a whole population, then how do you build trust? How do you signal that you're friendly? According to Yamauchi, you have to invent a sophisticated cultural workaround.
And this is where the theory takes a huge leap, right from biomechanics into deep cultural analysis. The core idea here is that some of Japan's most iconic cultural norms aren't just random traditions. They are incredibly sophisticated adaptations that were designed to compensate for a physical reality.
And right at the heart of this is the concept of Honne and Tatemae. You've probably heard of it. Honne is what you really truly feel on the inside. But Tatemae is the public face you put on, the opinions and behaviors you show the world to keep everything running smoothly.
So, Yamauchi's theory proposes that this whole system of communication evolved to fill the gap left by that lack of natural physical touch. The careful dance of Honne and Tatemae, the deep cultural importance of reading the air, he argues all of it serves the exact same social purpose as a hug or a firm, friendly handshake. It's this complex system of words and behaviors that's designed to say, hey, I mean you no harm, when your body itself is hesitant to express that directly. This line of thinking leads us to what is maybe the most profound and controversial part of the whole theory. It's an attempt to explain the incredibly powerful pressure to conform to the standard in Japanese society.
This is a total reframing of the idea of conformity. Yamauchi is arguing that the pressure to fit in isn't just about social harmony. No, he says it's rooted in a deep, subconscious, physical terror. The idea is, because the body's default state is so unstable, doing anything too different, straying too far from the safe, standard way of doing things, triggers a primal fear that your body could literally just fall apart.
He draws this really bold parallel. He suggests that the standard in Japan plays a similar role to religion in the West, but with one crucial difference. In many Western societies, where the individual self is seen as stable, religion provides a moral code to hold society together. But in Japan, Yamauchi argues, where the physical body is seen as unstable, conforming to the standard, just doing what everyone else does, acts as a literal lifeline. It provides the physical stability needed to keep from collapsing. The fear of stepping out of line isn't just social, it's existential.
Okay, so let's pull all of these threads together now. This whole argument, which goes all the way from the skeleton to society, can really be boiled down into a single, clear chain of cause and effect that tries to explain the whole thing.
So here it is, the entire theory in 4 steps. First, it starts with the unique skeleton, that unstable physical foundation. Step 2, this creates a deep sense of physical vulnerability. Step 3, to deal with that vulnerability, specific behaviors start to develop, like avoiding direct contact and sticking to a common standard. And finally, step 4, these behaviors, practiced by everyone over generations, eventually solidify into a unique and complex culture. It's this huge narrative connecting the micro-level reality of our bones to the macro-level reality of our society.
At the end of the day, this theory isn't about saying one body type or one culture is better than another. It's really just an attempt to understand the why behind it all. And in doing that, it leaves us with this really profound question. If who we are as a society is so deeply connected to the physical reality of our bodies, it makes you ask, what parts of ourselves and our culture can we actually change? And what fundamental parts might we just have to understand and accept for what they are?